Alrighty, folks, we're going to give everybody a couple seconds to get connected here before we get started, just to make sure everybody has an opportunity. All right. So I apologize. I just realized here, coming into the After Schrock, that we did not go over the. That's the word I'm looking for. The Elon story at the end of the show. I only had 2 minutes left at the end of the program, and I had a caller in there. Then I needed to get an Aftershock plug in, and then by the time everything wrapped up, I only had 10 seconds left. So I'll start off the Aftershock by covering the Elon story for you that I missed out on in the beginning. So basically, Elon, as you know, Elon Musk created Tesla. He owns SpaceX, and SpaceX has been launching all those satellites into orbit for their Starlink satellite service. The Starlink satellite service is supposed to be an ultra-fast, high-speed, satellite-based internet to basically bring internet anywhere in the world. And he's talking about bringing internet to Africa and all this cool stuff. Well, guess what? The Ukrainian president specifically reached out to Elon on Twitter and said, "Hey, can you please turn on Starlink for Ukraine?" Because they turned it on for different regions as it comes online, right? And so Elon checked into it and he goes, "Yeah, sure enough, we can." So he reoriented the satellites that needed to be reoriented and turned on Starlink for the Ukraine. Well, of course, you need receivers in order to receive the internet. So he emergency shipped a bunch of satellite Starlink receivers to Ukraine so that the people there would be able to maintain a connection of some sort to the internet. The reason that we're seeing a lot of the pictures and videos and things like that we are seeing coming out of the Ukraine is because Elon's Starlink satellite service is keeping the internet up and running in an environment where Russia pretty much controls everything else. So that was pretty spectacular to see him doing that. Now, of course, you could also argue this is in his interest, right? I mean, this is making the case for Starlink, right? Starlink gets a lot of bad press. Look at all those lights in the sky. They're in a straight line. What is that? It's ruining the sky. So they get some bad press for that kind of stuff. But this is an example of the technology being used for a really good purpose. So then, yesterday, Elon comes out with a statement. And as I mentioned, Elon, he created Tesla, which is an electric car company. What is the big push for electric cars? Well, everybody wants everything to be green, right? So we want electric cars because they don't pollute. They don't create, carbon, okay? Nobody really thinks about the fact that your power plants, especially in Nebraska and Iowa, a lot of them run on coal. And so that power you're using to charge your clean vehicle is generated by burning coal. You have a coal-powered car. Okay. But anyway, that's an argument for a different day. Obviously, the push for green automotive standards is a good thing for Tesla. It means you're going to sell more cars, right? Elon came out yesterday and said, we need to open the Keystone Pipeline and we need to drill for our own oil. And we need to do it right now. We need to increase oil production right now. Desperate times, desperate measures. And that said a lot to me about the guy. I'm like, okay, it's true, right? I mean, we're talking about importing oil from Iran. I heard this morning that there are some quiet negotiations happening with Venezuela to bring oil in from the Maduro regime there. Yeah, I mean, the world needs the oil. So we're gonna, we have one really bad actor that's invading countries, and the other one might be building a nuke, but they don't have a nuke yet, right? The other one may be oppressing other people, but those people are in South America, right? So, whatever we need to do. They may be allied with Russia, but whatever. So there's a lot of geopolitical backroom dealing things happening right now, trying to get more oil on the market so that we don't see the price of gas. So, for example, there's a handy formula that you can use to figure out what the price of gas is. You take the cost of a barrel of oil and you divide that by 42, the number of gallons in a barrel. Then don't ask me why the formula is the way it is. This is like asking me why the Pythagorean theorem is the way it is. I don't know. I just know the theorem, okay? Then you take that price, the barrel of oil divided by 42, you divide that by 2, and then you multiply that by 3. And you'll come out with what the rough cost of a gallon of gasoline should be, less taxes. And if you do that with a $114 barrel, you come out at about $4.07 a gallon. Pretty close, right? We're not quite at 114, and the price isn't quite over $4, although I did pay $3.99 for diesel yesterday. And I saw near the interstate it's over $4. So yeah, don't buy your gas near the interstate. So to have Elon come out and say, hey, we should drill for more oil and gas, even though it's going to directly, that's everything about my company is trying to make everything green, from solar city all the way through solar roofs to big batteries in your house to charging stations to electric cars. We're trying to do everything electric, but the reality of the world is we don't have enough oil and gas right now, and we don't have enough renewables to replace it. Let me give you a case in point. I had a meeting this week with a guy who's opening a Bitcoin mine in Beatrice, a big one, a big one. And, he was talking with me about, deployment, things like that, moving miners in, stuff like that. So we had breakfast because, I always like to talk with entrepreneurs. I like to hear what they're doing, hear how they're doing what they're doing, the challenges they face. And this guy had a background in oil and gas, and which made him really interesting to talk to, given all the geopolitical events that were going on. And then what he told me about renewables kind of blew me away a little bit. So he said, okay, so we have a wind farm, right? Wind farms don't get built unless there is a specific customer that is available to buy all of the power from the wind farm. So in other words, you're not going to build a wind farm unless you have a locked-in customer that you know is going to buy the power, okay? When you have a wind farm, the federal government pays you like 2 cents a kilowatt hour for producing the power. So you can sell that power for 1.5 cents a kilowatt hour, way below the industry norm, pocket the difference between the subsidy from the federal government and what you're selling it to this customer for, and in exchange the customer agrees to put their facility, their plant, their Bitcoin mine on site at the wind farm. So a lot of the renewable energy that we are getting is not going to power homes or cars or anything like that. It's going directly to individual industrial customers who are benefiting from the federal subsidy. Now, you could argue that these are people who would otherwise be buying power somewhere else. In some cases, that is true. So yes, in that regard, maybe renewables are taking a piece of the puzzle out. But the thought that you're going to power the heaters in Europe in winter on windmills, it's just not there. It's just not there, right? And Elon knows that. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't think we can get there. That doesn't mean that he doesn't think we should try to get there. But he also is looking at the reality of the world right now, that gigafactories that build Teslas don't run on solar power. They can't. There's not enough. So, tires require oil. Machining requires energy, requires oil. So, I mean, there's all kinds of, while there is no oil directly in a Tesla vehicle when you get it, oil was used in its manufacturing process in many points along the way. The other thing you have to consider here is that there are talks, okay, so oil is hovering around 100, 114 a barrel right now, intraday. I have heard reasonable estimates that it's going to go to 185 if we ban Russian oil, and it could go as high as 200 in a crisis spark moment of some sort. But 185 would be a natural resting place. You do that, use that formula, and you plug in 185 for the cost of a barrel of oil, and you come out with a gas price at $6 a gallon right before a midterm election. That's why we're talking to Venezuela. That's why we're trying to get the Iranian oil back online. Did you hear where the Russians screwed up the deal? They came out and said as part of the Iranian oil deal, they want to guarantee that they'll be able to buy and sell oil with Iran. Well, if we embargo their oil, they won't be able to do that. So they wanted in writing that we're not going to do that. Pretty interesting. So yeah, America, we're going to throw a monkey wrench in this works. I'm sure Iran is thrilled about this. Maybe they don't care. Maybe the deal's a joke to them. I don't know. But there's a lot going on, guys. There's a lot going on that could have some significant impacts on supply chain, significant impacts on inflation. no one is giving Putin an off-ramp here, and Putin doesn't seem very interested in taking an off-ramp. So we can only assume that the invasion of Ukraine is going to continue. The law of numbers is telling us that Russia will eventually win unless somebody intervenes. Interesting thing, that 40-mile long column or whatever that we hear about all the time, somebody pointed out the other day on all the satellite images, you know what you never see? People. It's almost like there's a 40-mile column of equipment, but there's no people. Where are the people? Are they just staying inside their vehicles 24/7? Like just never ever, they don't pee, they don't get out for anything, breath of fresh air, don't pop their head out the hatch, nothing? Poor guys, they're living in those things. Maybe they're getting sniped at. I know they killed 3 Russian generals this week. At first I'm like, Russia is sending their top-level generals out into the field to command this column, to take command of it because it's stalled? Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Could you imagine sending the Joint Chiefs of Staff to the front lines? Then all of a sudden, news release, Joint Chiefs of Staff a surprise visit to Poland to personally oversee the delivery of Stinger missiles. My guess is he was there to talk more about airplanes. But anyway, airplanes going from Poland. So anyway, it was just, man, it's getting crazy over there. So there's a lot. I don't see it de-escalating, guys. I see it. I see Russia encircling Kiev, probably, trying to cut off supply lines from the West. I see the West dumping weapons and munitions and mercenaries in. We're not the only country that has access to mercenaries that are plausibly deniable. So do you really think that the Ukrainians suddenly became, George Washington military experts and masterfully planned their own perfect defense? No. I'm not saying that they're not capable and they're not willing, don't get me wrong. They had help. Of course they had help. Of course they have help. And there's no secret about that. We're sharing intelligence. I'm sure we have advisors in the ground. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. I am absolutely certain about it. With that said, though, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that's going on. So one of the things I want to do later on here in the show is kind of just go over some basic things that my family does. Like, we're not super preppers or anything. I don't have a bunker. I don't have 6 years of food storage. I don't have iodine pills. If the world is that jacked up that I need iodine pills, I probably have bigger things to worry about. I don't have plate armor, like plate body armor. I don't have that kind of stuff. So when I'm talking about preps, I'm not talking about like end of the world as we know it kind of preparations. Think more like pandemic preparations. Imagine before the pandemic, if you would have stocked up the freezer and stocked up all the foods that you liked and loved, all the things you still can't get to this day, like Diet IBC root beer. Where did it go? Please bring it back. I'm just waiting. Like, is there a bottle shortage? Is there a label shortage? Is it a NutraSweet shortage? Like, what is it that you can't make the Diet IBC root beer? Because the regular root beer is just so sweet. I just can't do it. Anyway. So there's still products that haven't come back from the pandemic. Having some of that stuff around now. We had Diet IBC root beer in the house until about halfway, until almost 2021. Throughout the entire first year of the pandemic, because we bought it all. It's like I can't find this anymore. I'm going to go get it all, and it was cheap. It was inexpensive, and we just put it in a food storage room in the basement. And when my wife and I, at the end of the night, it was kind of our thing. We'd each have a Diet IBC root beer and watch a show together on Netflix or whatever, and then we go to bed. Then we ran out of root beer, and it was sad. So now we just drink whatever we want. I drink water. She drinks, sweet tea from Cane's or something, and we watch a show and then we go to bed. So we've modified. But anyway, what I'm getting at here is, I have little kids at home, and I've talked about my son's fascination with lime tostitos, the hint of lime tostitos, and they were out of stock again for a couple of weeks, and I had to explain to him, buddy, that he's like, go to the store and get some. He's 4. And I'm like, buddy, the store doesn't have any. They're all gone. They didn't make any at the factory. I'm trying to introduce the idea to him that stuff from the store comes from somewhere else. And he was like, well, go to the factory. Like, Dad, go whoop some butt. Make my chips. How do you do that? trying to introduce him to this concept, and he had to wait a couple days without his chips, and so he ate grapes and he ate Cheez-Its, and he switched. He ate foods, but he didn't have the foods that he wanted. Right? My daughter has special needs. My daughter will not try new foods. She will simply not eat to the point where she loses strength. The child's will is impressive to watch. You would think that she thinks all food around her, except for a specific brand, she's kind of on the spectrum a little bit, a specific brand of hot dogs is poison. And if we get a different brand, literally, like, if we don't have the right exact brands of the foods that she eats, the right brand of popcorn that she can pop in the microwave, the right, literally just like, this is the reality that we deal with. And, would my child survive if she was eating ration crackers out of a barrel? I'm supposed at some point she'd get hungry enough, right? I don't want to live with her for the 2 weeks it would take for that to happen. When we went out of town to Los Angeles to pick up my son Louis when we adopted him, we were going to be gone for 2 weeks. We had to stay in California for the clearing of paperwork and things. And we were going to stay in 2 weeks. Well, my daughter got upset that I wasn't there and just stopped eating. She wouldn't eat for Papa. And so after a week, I had to get on a flight and fly back because she couldn't go to school because she was so sickly because she wasn't eating. I walked in the door and she's like, "Hot dogs, please." And she would start eating again. A child. So, we all have challenges. We all have preferences. We all have little things that, little guilty pleasures that we like that, if they weren't available, life would go on, the sun would come up, the globe would still spin. But the morning coffee makes the day a little easier to take, right? So anyway, here I'm going to go over some things, just some stupid little things. Like, we went to Sam's Club and bought some stuff, and we didn't buy like a year of toilet paper or any stupid, nothing like that. But stuff that we're actually going to use, even if nothing happens, that we're going to spend money on, even if nothing happens, and then why we chose to spend the money that we did on those things right now. Mitch, good to see you. Ronald, thanks for coming. Thanks for the audio check, Winston. Aaron, good to have you. Carolyn's here. Cool. Dean. All right. Deborah's here. So I'm just going through everything, making sure that we get all the acknowledgments in and make sure there's any questions I get to them before I go on for like an hour and then come back to it. Good morning, Mary. Karen and Roger are here. Good to have you back, guys. All righty. Good morning. Elon's correct about the pipelines. Yeah, I think he is, Aaron. I think he is. What could it hurt, right? What could it hurt? There are people who are very concerned about the pipeline leaking oil into the groundwater supply. So there are people who, what could it hurt? There are possibilities, right? But what's the possibility of a train derailing and dumping a bunch of oil on the ground? There are concerns about oil either way, but we need it. I know this is not the forum for computer. Oh, this is totally the forum for computer questions, John. This is not a prohibition. This is just stuff that we didn't get to in the show for the most part. So we're going to talk about some crypto, and we're not going to get into the politics of things. That's, I don't know. I enjoy talking about it, but not everybody enjoys talking about it, and other people are here because they want an escape from it. So I want to make sure that we don't dive too deep into the weeds on things. But no, this is totally an acceptable forum for any computer or IT-related questions. He says, my phone died and I couldn't call in during the compute this. First, my phone, can you replace the charging port on the phone? And two, my Dell laptop goes into auto-rotate for no apparent reason. I've Googled it and there's a fix. The laptop doesn't have the auto-rotate feature. Any clues? Okay, so first of all, on the phone, that's a board-level repair. It's possible we could fix it, but it's not technically what we do. I'm a big believer in being really good at what you do and letting someone else be good at everything else. Because if you try to do everything and be everything, you'll eventually be nothing. So, in fact, in this case, I would recommend like Ubreak iFix or a store that actually specializes in cell phone board level repair. That would be my take on that one. As far as the auto rotate feature, that is truly bizarre. My guess is that there's got to be some Dell software installed on the computer that's causing it to rotate like that, because that's not a function that's built into Microsoft. Like, it's not a Microsoft function. That's got to be a Dell function. So there's probably some kind of Dell software that's starting up with the computer that is causing it to rotate. So the first thing that I would do is I would hit Control-Alt-Delete on the keyboard to bring up the Task Manager. Click on Task Manager. You might have to click on Show Me More on the bottom to see all the different things. But there's a tab called Startup. Click on that tab. Anything in that tab that says Dell anything, uncheck it. Now, you're not going to damage anything here, because if you restart the computer and something is wackadoo, you can always go back in and recheck those items and then restart again and everything's back the way it was. But uncheck everything that says anything having to do with Dell, and then see if that solves the auto rotate issue. My guess is there's some Dell software auto-loading with the computer that's causing that problem. So yeah, totally okay to have computer questions during the aftershock. We also will be using gasoline reserves. Yeah, let me see. U.S. has been training the Ukrainian militia for a few years. Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. I have 6 months of cash on hand in case ATMs and banks are shut down. Yep. I hear you, Ron. I don't quite have 6 months on hand. You go, boy. Facebook, Twitter, Visa, MasterCard, and Coke will soon be taken away from the Russians. In a few months, they'll be the healthiest and well-adjusted country on the planet. Yeah, the thing on the Drudge headlines, it was hilarious, the comments below that. So like I said on the show, on Drudge, they had a headline that said, Russia bans all fake news, and the next headline below that was, CNN pulls out of Russia. And I'm like, I don't know if that was like just coincidental headlines. It couldn't have been, because it's the implication was CNN was pulling out because Russia passed a law banning fake news, and so CNN is all fake news, right? So we got to pull out of Russia. That wasn't why they pulled out of Russia, obviously. But the the thing of the comments were like, I thought we were supposed to be punishing the Russians. Why are we taking CNN away? They stay there, punish these people. Oh golly. I have 3 grandkids like that. Their mom fixed 3 different meals Wednesday night. Yeah, on one hand, you want to go full like 1970s dad on them and be like, you'll eat what you're served, and if you won't, you'll go hungry. But I don't know maybe I have to break these children. I don't know. But see, the thing is, having a 4-year-old who's stubborn, which I have, at some point his tantrum becomes a crying fit, and after he cries for a while, he forgets why he's crying, and he's just crying to cry. And then you just redirect him to something else, and then he's fine, right? You can break that. You can move through that. But when you have a special needs kiddo that can't reason, that you'll redirect to something else, and then like a random neuron will fire, and like for example, she'll get hung up on LOL surprise balls. She loves to open LOL surprise balls. She doesn't necessarily play with the toys that much, but she loves the experience of opening the ball. Just the unwrapping of it and the opening of taking things out and opening the bags and narrating and talking, which is great because we didn't ever think she was going to talk, and now she's like narrating like she's doing an unboxing show because she watches those on her iPad. When she thinks that she should have a ball to open, even though we haven't done, it's not Christmas, it's not Easter, it's not a birthday, it's not Friday after a big event, there's not a wedding we're going to, there's no reason for a distraction, it's just a regular Tuesday night, and she gets it in her head that she should have an LOL ball to open, she will throw a tantrum for a full 24 hours because she doesn't have an LOL ball to open. And you can't reason with her. Like, why would you have a ball? There is no ball. Where are my toys? I lost my toys. And she'll get upset because she says she lost her toys. You never had the toy. You didn't lose it. We don't have any. Well, let's go to the store. I'm like, we're not going to go to the store. It's like, and then she's like, we don't have any money. And you're like, Katie. Then she's running around crying, we don't have any money. And you're like, are you guys saying that at school? Like, are people at school giving you toys because they think you're a poor child? I don't know what's happening here. But anyway, you have kids like that, and it really makes you plan more than maybe my parents did. My parents, I had a staph infection the size of a softball on my forehead for 2 weeks, and my parents didn't even notice. Yeah, they didn't even notice. I'm like, it's not a tumor, All right, ultimate upgrade. Can I exchange a laptop for a desktop? Will there be options for different upgrades for like RAM and stuff? Yeah, Ronald. When the ultimate upgrade is released next month, we don't care what you trade in. You can trade in a laptop and buy a desktop. You can trade in a desktop and get a laptop. We're not using parts from your computer to build the new computer. Your old computer is getting recycled with Sadoff recycling. It's getting shredded, literally. The new computer is a completely brand new computer, completely brand new parts, full warranty. And of course, there are upgrade options so you can increase memory, change out processor. There's processor upgrades as well. All the different things you might want to do with it. Did you hear about the offer from PayPal about giving you $5 in Bitcoin? I remember I've heard something along those lines, but if you're going to give me $5 in Bitcoin, the cost of transferring $5 of Bitcoin is exceeding $5. So I'm not sure if that's just with. I know the thing with PayPal and cryptocurrency is if you buy cryptocurrency within PayPal, you can't move it out of PayPal. You can't take it out of your wallet at PayPal. You're locked in there. Now, the only way you can move it is to sell it for fiat for $5, and then you can move the $5. I don't like that. I don't like being boxed in, telling me, this is my cryptocurrency, but I don't hold the private key to do what I want with it. That's a real big problem. So when you hear about oligarchs getting their cryptocurrency seized, this is something, you might as well hit it now. Oligarchs are not bypassing sanctions through cryptocurrency. It is literally not happening. Do you know why we know it's not happening? Because every transaction, everywhere, every single one is recorded in a ledger that's publicly accessible that everybody can look at. We can look at all the wallet addresses and we can see who is moving money. And it looks like if you combine the amount of money in Ukraine and Russia being moved in Bitcoin in a single day, it is $10 million or less total for two countries in war. Bitcoin is not being used to evade sanctions in any meaningful way. In fact, Bitcoin would be the absolute worst possible way to evade sanctions because you would be leaving a documented trail of evidence that you were evading sanctions. If you're a Russian oligarch who has all these ill-gotten gains from corruption or whatever, are you going to then document that on the blockchain forever, that you had this money at some point? Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. So instead, you're going to buy gold bars. You're going to buy a yacht. You're going to buy property in Manhattan. You're going to buy things. You're going to buy soccer clubs. You're going to buy things that you can stick your money in to hold it, rather than buying cryptocurrencies and having a record of that purchase being made every single time you make it. So cryptocurrencies are not being used to evade sanctions. There was a lot of run-up in the news about this about a week ago, and that caused a run-up in the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum. That was why we saw that bump that went up, because everyone's like, well, Russians are going to buy it. We may as well run the price up, right? Because everyone's going to buy it. Well, then the buys never showed. And now we're seeing the price come back down again because the buyers never showed up. This would be when the buyers should show up. Just saying. So anyway, anything you hear in the news about Russians evading sanctions using crypto, it's not going to happen. It literally is not going to happen. Now, if Russia chose to do that, as I said, there would be a permanent record on the blockchain. But if a country doesn't care, so this thing about seizing Russian Bitcoin wallets, you cannot seize a Bitcoin wallet. A privately held Bitcoin wallet cannot be seized by anybody, any government, any person, unless the individual that owns the wallet gives access to that wallet to that government entity. There's a law passed. Anybody that assists Russia in evading sanctions by assisting them with Bitcoin transactions, well, you can't assist anybody in a Bitcoin transaction because the person who holds the wallet must initiate the transaction. So there's no assistance. So they're saying, I think they mean exchanges. Any exchanges that do that was what they were trying to go for there. But the government is stupid. They just don't know the right words to use. So anyway, it's not being used right now for that purpose. In fact, Bitcoin is correlating really well to risk assets right now. So what that means in English is if the NASDAQ goes up and down, Bitcoin goes up and down with it. So Bitcoin is not an inflation hedge, it turns out. Bitcoin is not, for the record, by the way, gold also loses money during inflationary periods. It just loses less money than the stock market. It gets beat up less. So it can be seen as a safe haven because it gets beat less. Um, you know, Bitcoin might get beat up a little bit less than the broader market. We don't know. But it's proving to be not an inflationary hedge. It's proving to be not a recession protection. There are two types of recessions. There are like monetary recessions that are just, business cycle recessions. And then there's like liquidity crisis situations like what happened in 2008 kind of recessions. Bitcoin was created out of the 2008 recession. That was the reason it was created. In a recession like that, Bitcoin would probably do very well. In a normal monetary recession, Bitcoin's probably not going to outperform. So then the question becomes, do you think this is going to be a regular recession? Or do you think that something in the financial system is going to crack under all this weird stress and cause of a liquidity crisis? How much exposure do European banks have to Russian banks? And how much exposure do American banks have to those European banks? Is there some kind of cascading failure that could happen here that we won't know about until it does happen? Maybe they won't even know about it until it happens. Who knows? So anyway, there's all these considerations to have. Let's see. Greetings from central Iowa. No damage from last night's tornadoes. 17 miles east of Des Moines. West of Des Moines is not good, especially for Winterset. Yeah, Winterset got punched. How long till new chip plants come online in the U.S.? Texas Instruments is one, I believe. Yeah, there's plants going up in Utah, plants going up in Arizona. Because everything takes time, permitting, construction, equipment purchases, hiring, training, we're looking at 5 years. Process was started a few months ago, so we're still pretty much looking at 5 years. Maybe if they had to accelerate that timetable, like fire sale kind of thing, they could get it down to 2 years. But yeah, we're looking at 5 years. And even then, the production capacity of those plants would not be enough to replace Taiwan should something happen. But at least we would have some domestic supply so we could domestically produce our own weapons without having to rely on China for the microchips to power them. Let's see. Auto rotate sounds like something you do when you crash a landing helicopter. Let's see. News is saying 6 people are dead, including 2 children. That's so awful. That's so awful. Now it's saying 7. Does anyone else hate the new look of Facebook? I'm having trouble getting used to the way it handles groups. Let's see. Okay. Turn off the KFAB Audible. Oh, well, it's studio monitoring. I've got everything unplugged in here that I can unplug. They have to have a little bit of volume up. What is a Russian oligarch? A Russian oligarch is a rich Russian. A rich Russian, primarily who's made their money by a close association with the Russian government. So coming out of the 90s, Russia was the Wild West. People were stealing hubcaps for money. I mean, literally stealing hubcaps for money off cars. Everything was good. It was gangland. And some people were suited for that. And some people made a lot of money during that time. And the people that made a lot of money are very similar to the people probably who took all the money that the Russian government gave the Russian military to buy tires for the vehicles in that 40-mile column. Reports are that a lot of the tires are dry rotted and that they're rupturing under load and stress. And that's one of the reasons why the column isn't advancing. The assessment I heard yesterday is, we haven't seen any people in the column, insinuating maybe all the Russians abandoned in the vehicles, and the column can't move because there's not enough people to physically drive the vehicles. So that'd be bad. Somebody took that money that was given for tires and spent it on something else. That'd be an oligarch. So somebody who makes money because of their close associations with the Russian government through business dealings that maybe at one point were not legitimate, but maybe they are now, kind of thing. No, there's actually a speaker on the wall behind me here that has the KFAB audio. So I unplug all the headphones and everything to make sure that I'm not getting any audio feeds coming through into here. Like all these headphones here, I want to make sure that they're all off, and they are all off right now. So I'm not getting any audio of my own in here. So I'm not sure where. I think it's just coming from the speaker. So sorry, it's the best I can do. They gotta know if it goes off air. Amazon's taking a big hit on their stock, down $45. I'm thinking the transportation costs are a major reason. Oh yeah, Ronald. I would venture a huge guess. Transport costs are going to go insane. They're going to go parabolic. If gas goes to $6 a gallon, diesel, most people don't think about diesel, but diesel runs about, it's the Hy-Vee gas this morning had gasoline at $3.69 a gallon and diesel at $4 a gallon. So it runs, 40 cents higher than gasoline, but every single truck that delivers things to those warehouses is powered on diesel. And if diesel prices go up, that's a direct input cost on transportation. That's going to cause jet fuel to go up. That's Amazon's business, is moving things from warehouse to warehouse, box to box, just-in-time inventory. Expect your prime shipment deliveries to get longer, more delays. Expect things to not get transported as frequently. When transportation costs go up, people order less. They try to maintain a lighter inventory, which leads to shortages when people run to the store and buy stuff. It's going to be pretty crazy. Do you think that things are falling in order for the feds to start digital currency? I don't think we're looking at digital currency anytime in the near future. One of the things that does worry me, though, is the weaponization of the dollar, the way that we're doing it. The idea that we can just sanction away any problem by denying people access to money. Countries are going to get tired of that after a while. And, so we only turn it on the bad countries, right? We only do it to countries that are evil. Well, we've only done it to Iran and to China and to Russia and to Venezuela and to Mexico. And, literally, you start Canada. We've done it to Canada. We've done it to everybody. At some point, people are going to be like, this, you can't keep doing this. And now we're talking about removing people from the SWIFT system, which is just a messaging system. And literally, the SWIFT system is a joke. The SWIFT system is was the replacement for the fax machine, honestly, or the ticker tape. It's completely outdated by modern standards. Email can easily replace the SWIFT system, and that's probably what's happening. So, it's... The thing that concerns me the most is that by weaponizing the dollar, we risk its reserve status. And we all know that the U.S. spends like a drunken sailor. Spends like a whole ship of drunken sailors. Then they're going to spend more money now. We're going to spend money on the Ukraine. We're going to spend money everywhere. It's like, rather than appropriating more money for the Ukraine, can't we cut money from somewhere else and give that money to the Ukraine? Why can't we cut anything? Ever. Why do we always have to appropriate more money? Like, where are we getting the money? If we had to actually tax the money that we appropriated, there would not be a desire to appropriate money for Ukraine. But the fact that we can just print it out of thin air and give it to the Ukraine is why nobody has a problem with it. Well, the thing is, you can't keep doing that forever. And, people have been saying that for years. People were saying that at $1 trillion, and now they're saying that they said it at, when Obama was president, he's accumulated more debt than all the presidents back to George Washington combined. And then under Trump's administration, he pretty much doubled it. So, I guess no one ever said he accumulated more debt than any president going back to Washington ever. Now Biden, he has no problem doubling it again. It's a double, double, double. Let's keep going. There's no consequence. Why should there be consequences in my administration? And, so it's frustrating. So that I don't know that I think that the digital currency is going to be something that comes out of, you see, there's a confusion that digital currency from a Federal Reserve Bank is the same thing as Bitcoin. It's not. Digital money is programmable money. So it's money that the Federal Reserve, they don't have to sanction people anymore. They can literally just seize your bank account wherever it's at. In fact, there's no need for banks anymore, honestly, at that point. The banking industry would be completely crushed by this. There's no need for deposit accounts. So if there's no need for deposit accounts, what's the need for the banks? The Federal Reserve can make mortgages. Hell, the federal government makes most of the mortgages now anyway, or backs them anyway. So why not just make the mortgages? Why do we have a banking industry at all? Literally, that's where digital currency is going to take us. You don't need a bank if you have Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is accepted, you don't need a bank to hold your Bitcoin. You don't need a bank to manage your transactions. You can't overdraft your account. You can't spend more than you have. You can't double spend your Bitcoin. If somebody takes your Bitcoin, it's because you gave them access to your wallet. It's unhackable. Nobody can steal your Bitcoin. So, why have a bank at that point? So there would be a dramatic shock to the system if they introduced a central bank digital currency at this point. I don't think they're ready to do it. The yuan was a disaster. Nobody wanted to use it. Everybody took the free money, but then after that, nobody wanted to use it anymore. And honestly, there would be pushback in America about it. Not having physical cash at all anymore, like it doesn't exist anymore. You know, maybe in 20 years when we have a whole generation of kids who grew up on cryptos that are of voting age and political acumen, that maybe something like that could happen. I think we're a ways off on it, though. Yeah, Ronald, about Taiwan, I don't know what's going to happen there either. On one hand, you'd say that the fact that nobody is doing anything to stop Russia or to really repel them is an encouragement. On the other hand, you could say that the fact that Russia is literally getting their rear ends handed to them by a bunch of civilians with AK-47s and Stingers might give Taiwan pause. A lot of people, or might give China pause on Taiwan. A lot of people don't realize that Taiwan is mostly a mountainous island. So we're talking about like mountainous territory having to be taken by foot soldiers. It's not a great plan. I mean, it could be done, just like Ukraine can be done. But it's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be fun. It will be televised to the world. This is being made apparent. Everyone will know what's happening. The question is, no one is willing to sanction Russia's oil because we need it. Who would be willing to sanction China's production? Who would be willing to ban their products in China over this? Would Visa and MasterCard discontinue operations in China? Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, Ronald. There's stuff that's not adding up. A 40-mile convoy, and there's no fuel trucks going back and forth. Even if they're just sitting there, they're burning fuel, right? They're going to turn those vehicles on from time to time for heat, if nothing else. There's no fires either, right? Like, it's cold. In all the live shots, there's like snow going by. It's cold. They're all in parkas, and all the reporters are. I mean, could you imagine you're in a metal can, basically freezing to death? I'm not sure there's any people in those vehicles, and that's probably why they're not moving. It's inching along. Well, literally, is it inching along? Is there one guy going to like the front vehicle and like driving it forward 20 feet, going to the next vehicle and driving that one forward 20 feet, like single man column moving all the vehicles? What's happening there? I don't know. All right, the cost of Amazon Prime did go up. Home heating fuel is the same grade as diesel. That's going to go up too, yep. Luckily, we're coming out of winter, though, so at least we'll have some time to plan for that. Let's see. Oh, that's a good move, Dean. I didn't realize you could buy another year of Prime in advance. Take a look at the modern monetary theory. Oh, yeah. Coinbase is using blockchain, has to have huge disk storage to recall the blockchain transactions, right? Okay, this is a great point, Steve. So the blockchain is not something that's stored by one person somewhere. Anybody using Bitcoin can store the blockchain. So if you have a privately held wallet, in other words, not a wallet that's a software wallet held with a website or a service like Coinbase, you are keeping a copy of the blockchain on your hard drive. Yes, it is sizable. I have a 1 terabyte hard drive dedicated just to blockchain, and it's about half full. So yeah, the blockchain gets bigger all the time. It's never going to get smaller, ever. The transactions are permanent. We'll always require more storage and more storage and more storage to store it as time goes on and transactions go up. Now, you can spend Bitcoin without keeping a copy of the blockchain on your computer. But depending on your wallet, the blockchain is what tells you how much Bitcoin you have in your wallet, because it's a ledger. It's a giant ledger. So it tells everybody how much money is there. So literally, if somebody is saying, hey, Thor, I want to buy 5,000 computers, and we say, okay, what's your Bitcoin address? And they give us an address, we can go and look at that address and see how much Bitcoin is in that account, in that wallet. Like, we can't afford to buy our product. We're not going to waste our time here. As opposed to like, oh, wow, this guy's got like a lot of Bitcoin. We can really make a big sale here, you know. Literally, Bitcoin is completely open, completely traceable. Everything is visible. All this notion that it's used for all these evil purposes. You know how hard it is to launder a Bitcoin? You have to take it off the blockchain first. So that means you have to take a Bitcoin and you have to sell the Bitcoin and then buy Ethereum. So you've moved from the Bitcoin blockchain to the Ethereum chain, right? Then you take the Ethereum over to a decentralized financial app like PancakeSwap, which is an exchange that doesn't require, you can't sanction, it's not run by a person, it's a smart contract. And you use PancakeSwap to change those coins into other coins. Then you move those coins back onto an exchange, and then you move them back into Bitcoin, and then you move the Bitcoin to a wallet. That's a lot of moving and working. And I mean, laundering Bitcoin is not easy. And then you're still going to have Russian oligarchs' wallet had a lot of Bitcoin in it, and all the Bitcoin went away. Where did it go? We can trace it all the way to PancakeSwap. So we know it's being laundered. So we know the Russian oligarch is laundering Bitcoin. That's how we know they're not using Bitcoin to get it out of the system. We would see the Bitcoin leaving the system. Now it might come back in somewhere else under a different wallet address, but we're not seeing that flow out. So we're also not seeing huge buy volumes. So that means people aren't liquidating assets to buy Bitcoin. In fact, what bank would you use to buy the Bitcoin? You can't use a U.S. bank to buy your Bitcoin if you're a Russian oligarch anymore. So, I don't know. All right. So, Aaron, the Weimar Republic of the 1930s looks like they did nothing wrong compared to how the U.S. is running the economy now. Well, maybe we're just a little smarter. Maybe it's different this time. It's always different this time. All right. So, some things. I mentioned that my wife and I went to Sam's and we made some purchases. We stocked up on some stuff. A couple of reasons. Number one, fuel prices are definitely going up. That is not a doubt. That is a certainty. They already have gone up, guys. Diesel's up 30 cents in the last 30 days. They're going to keep going up. We know that the supply chain keeps about 2 weeks worth of stuff in the chain. So 2 weeks from now, we're going to see probably a pretty good increase in inflationary pressure. Now, we've already had a lot of inflation. A lot of companies, like Schrock, have chosen to not raise prices in the face of that inflation, to eat the inflation in the form of lower margins of profit in order to acquire or maintain market share. There is a limit to the ability of companies to do that. There comes a point where you just can't take a smaller margin, you have to raise your prices. So we've already eaten up a lot of the elasticity in the pricing structure, and now we're going to hit it with another inflationary shock that's primarily fuel, energy inflation. Energy is required to produce everything in some form, right? Your factory runs on energy. Your employees get to work using energy. Your business's lights on energy. Your computers run on energy. Everything runs on energy. Everything. If the cost of energy goes up, we are going to see inflationary pressures continue to get worse. Cost of transporting goods is going to go up. Somebody reported yesterday, my wife was like, let's go get gas. And I'm like, okay, we can go get gas. She's like, no, let's go get gas right now. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And she said that there was a Costco, a friend of hers at a Costco. I'm not sure where the Costco was. It wasn't California. It wasn't in one of the obvious states like California. Costco just changed their price to something like $4.50 a gallon for unleaded. And so, we said, well, while the price has been $3.69 for 2 days at Hy-Vee gas right now, I'd recommend you fill up your tank. Keep your tank full, because the cost tomorrow is definitely going to be higher than the cost today. Now, it might not be directly higher tomorrow, because for the last 2 days it's been the same. Do any of us expect the price of fuel to go down in the near future? So keeping your tank full at least buffers you for a week from a price increase, right? Having those foods around that I know my daughter will eat. Having that specific brand, a 24-pack of hot dogs from Sam's Club. The specific hot dogs. She won't eat Freddy's hot dogs. She'll eat that hot dog. We made sure we had I have a lot of hot dogs. I could have a barbecue. You could all come. We could all have hot dogs. There's a lot of hot dogs. I came home with lime chips because they had them back in stock at Hy-Vee. And I bought 5 bags, right? The bags are smaller than they used to be. I bought 5 bags. They'll last a while. And my son's face when I came in the door and I showed him the bag and he said, "Did you get 2?" He's asking me, did I get 2 bags? So I'd have one for later. He's planning ahead, smarty pants 4-year-old. I'm like, no, I bought 5. And he was like, 5? Like, wow, Dad, that was amazing. So we put those down in the food storage room. Making sure if you can have some cash on hand, it would be a good idea. Now, here's the thing. I'm looking at the Russian military, And I'm shaking my head like, we were afraid of these people? Like, these guys are a joke. This would be like rolling over the Iraqi army. I mean, I'm imagining I'm a retired A-10 Warthog pilot, and I'm looking at that column, and I'm literally having dreams about that column at night. I could just one pass, just give me one pass, that's all I want. I mean, just, they're lined up so beautifully nice. They don't have any guns, there's no people there. I could just, oh, please, let me do it. Wow. So things are going to escalate in the Ukraine. Things are going to get crazy. Russia, at some point, they don't have very many weapons they can attack with. Right now, we're playing a delicate game where we're supplying weapons to Ukrainian militia to kill Russian soldiers. Do you remember when a news headline hit a few years back that the Russians may have been providing weapons to Afghanistan forces to fight American soldiers? And the outrage we all felt about that? The calls on Russia to answer for their crimes? It's the same thing in reverse now. So you think Russia is going to tolerate, especially wants their soldiers to... Russia looks like a fool right now. And Putin, that's one of the reasons I went to go watch RT. All right, so Putin was giving a speech. He attended a graduation ceremony for airline stewardesses. There was literally like 100 of them at a big long table, and he was at the head of the table, and he was talking about geopolitical events. At a graduation ceremony for airline students? For stewardesses, airline stewardesses? What the hell sense does... This is bizarre. Like, what do you... It is insane, the stuff you're seeing on... If you go look at RT.com and read the stories, and then read the news that we're seeing, you'll see the stories are the same, but they're just angled differently. And so there's documentaries there that you can watch about how the people of Ukraine have been killing people in the Donetsk Republic for, there's a woman on crutches missing her lower leg and all kind. Literally it's propaganda, okay? And maybe it's legit. I don't know. I don't care. Whatever. All I'm concerned about is, how is this going to affect my family? That's the first concern I have. How will this affect my family? How will this affect my business? How will this affect my community? How will this affect my nation? There's a big part of me that watches what's happening on the news, and I'm just like, somebody needs to do something. And I know in my mind that there isn't anybody else. No one is going to do anything. We need to do something. And then I have that urge, we need to do something. We need to get involved. We need to intervene. We could stop this. We could literally stop this. Like that. And yeah, we're risking a nuclear war. But the only way mutually assured destruction actually works is if the other side thinks that you can do it. Nobody thinks Biden's going to launch a nuke. I don't even know if they'd launch a retaliatory strike if we were preemptively strike. So, no, everyone believes that Biden's not going to launch a nuke, right? Putin, we're not so sure, right? He's kind of got this madman vibe working for him, kind of like Trump did, right? Like, you didn't really know what he's going to do next, so he's kind of unstable, maybe. I don't know. He could just wake up in the morning and feel like nuking somebody. Should we give him the button? I don't know. At least that's what the media said about Trump, right? But he used it to his advantage in negotiations with foreign diplomats. He wasn't shy about it. He welcomed that image and used it. Putin's doing the same thing. So the question is he really unstable, or is he just acting unstable for political benefit? The only way you find that out is if you step up and make him back down. We're the only place... NATO can't do it. NATO's a defensive alliance. NATO can't be offensive. They're defensive alliance. The second they go on the offense, it means Russia was right the whole time. That he didn't want NATO on his doorstep because they're a foreign power that's going to invade Russia, because they're an offensive alliance. And NATO is like, no, we're just defensive only, So the second that NATO starts attacking people or puts up a no-fly zone or anything like that, game over. But individual members of NATO can. And so Poland is offering jets, and there's things like this happening. There's only a matter of time. If Russia starts losing badly and looking really stupid, like, if the world continues to believe that you're just fighting Ukrainian citizens who have been given MiG-29s to fight with and shoulder-fired missiles, and they've defeated the entirety of the Russian army, Putin's literally pulling forces off of his eastern borders to go fight in the Ukraine. Because, China believes that Siberia is part of China. Did you know that? Yeah, just like they believe Taiwan is a breakaway province, they believe Siberia is a Chinese province. Wouldn't it be hilarious right now if China didn't move on Taiwan, but instead moved on Siberia instead? Ho. Anyway, maybe Biden can talk to him about that. We'll give you Siberia. So, long story short here, guys, this is going to escalate, and it's either going to escalate to a boiling point and someone's going to back down, or it's going to escalate and new things are going to happen. I am of the belief that new things are going to happen, okay? We're going to keep pumping weapons into Ukraine. Russia's going to get increasingly desperate. Russia is going to tell Western powers, they've already said that if you give weapons to the Ukraine, we're at war. So technically, a state of war already exists between the United States and Russia, according to Russia. People of the Ukraine are like, you idiots, he's already declared war on you, don't you see this? It's like when the Taliban blew up the towers and you didn't realize you were at war until they blew up your twin towers? They've been at war with you for a decade. You just now realized it? So that could be part of what's going on, but eventually those cyber attacks are going to happen. Now, when cyber attacks happen, cyber attacks have deniability. They can appear to come from China. They can appear to come from Russia. They can appear to come from the United States itself. So this is shake and bake Putin stuff. Plausible deniability. It's a false flag. America attacked itself, knocked off its own power plants. Depriving people of internet and communications because they know the war is going badly and they needed a reason to intervene and attack us poor Russians. Water supply disruptions, transportation disruptions, supply chain disruptions. The supply chain is what if I was going to hit something in a country like America, I would hit the supply chain. The reason being, number one, it's a soft target. A lot of small companies, when I say attack, how do you attack the supply chain? You attack trucking companies. You attack Werner. You attack Crete Carrier. You attack the companies that move the trucks. You attack Maersk, that does the shipping. You attack the companies that make up the supply chain. So now you're not attacking countries, you're attacking companies. Are you going to go to a nuclear war? If we won't go to nuclear war over Ukraine, are you going to go over a nuclear war because we attack a trucking company? You include wiper data, that it's ransomware, that appears to be regular ransomware, but is actually wiping the data on the computer. That's what Ukraine got hit with. That's what Microsoft stepped up, detected, and stopped. Because they were just literally erasing the Ukrainian databases to make them less effective. So if I'm going to attack a country, I attack a supply chain. If somebody attacks the American supply chain, well, you're going to be able to get trucks will still roll. People will still be like, well, I think I need some products somewhere that way, and they're going to send a truck that way. Who knows if it gets to your way or not? So have the stuff in your house that you would need to go a couple weeks. That's all we're doing at the Schrock household. We're making sure that we have enough that if we couldn't go to the store for 2 weeks, we got all the things that we need for the littles. We got all the things we need to make some dinners. We're good to go. You start stepping that cyber attack stuff up a little bit. You start attacking water systems, power grids, things like that. That crosses some lines. That could be an escalation. So I would expect that attacks on companies and attacks on individuals are going to come first, which is one of the reasons why on the last shows, with increasing urgency, I've been talking about things like Sophos and Secure Updater and checking your routers. I mean, nobody wants to check their router. I can't think of anything I'd like to do less, right? But check your router. Make sure it's up to date, because any kind of attack that happens on these companies, if you have a system that is compromisable, your system will be involved in the attack on those companies. Your computer, your router will attack the trucking company. And it'll go right through your router, and no one will know who did it because you were the weak link in the chain. And yes, it's a chain. So you're going to fix your link because you're a responsible American, but some idiot down the chain is not going to fix their link. It's going to happen, right? Well, we can make it as hard as we can, right? We don't have to make it easy for people. So let's fix our links, make our chain a little bit stronger, so that we can withstand these things a little bit better or recover from them a little bit faster. That's the goal that we have at Schrock with our customers, is to make sure their systems stay clean, to make sure they're not used as a vehicle for an attack on somebody else, and that they themselves are not getting attacked. Those are the three things that we try to do with Secure Updater and Sophos for our customers. We haven't had any customer get successfully attacked while running Sophos, ever. We've had people think they get infected, but nobody is successfully infected. It's an amazing piece of software. Alrighty. Going up here, sorry. Scrolling up on comments. Here we go. Oh wow, this is weird. The comments are like out of order than they were before. There is a low-level training route here at the lake that the A-10s fly low and level all the time, 600 feet off the water. Fun to watch. I bet that is fun to watch. The A-10 is the coolest plane ever made. The A-10 is the ugliest plane ever made, but one of the deadliest planes ever made. There's a reason they call it the Warthog. Fake news, Russian bounties for dead American soldiers. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was like the Russians are paying bounties for dead Americans. I don't know if everyone on RT got fired or not, but there was still stuff there on the website. Putin doesn't bluff? I don't know. Putin doesn't bluff, but the question is he a madman? Is he actually insane, or is he following a plan where he believes that he can take all of the Ukraine, build up forces on Poland's border, and then negotiate it into the sanctions under the threat of an invasion of the rest of Europe? So yes, you're going to sanction the hell out of me now. Once we have this Ukraine thing sorted out, we'll threaten to attack you further unless you drop the sanctions, which we know will get Biden to drop the sanctions. And then we'll flow gas to Europe again, and everything will go back to the way it was. And then, of course, the Russian troops will exit Ukraine, because that will be a requirement of any deal made with the West. But you see, the Ukraine doesn't have a military, and we don't want to leave these poor people undefended. So we're going to have to create a Ukrainian military, which will probably just be populated by Russian soldiers. With a new leader, of course, the denazification part. We've got to get rid of the Jewish Nazi guy who's leading Ukraine, and his Jewish foreign minister, who's also a Nazi. Yeah. There are neo-Nazis in the Ukraine. They do exist, but they exist everywhere. It's not like they're like running the government. There are 2 Jewish guys running the government of Ukraine. It doesn't get any more less Nazi than that. Yeah, and that's Brad saying here. Everyone should research the Azov battalion, learn a little bit more about a country and a people before you want to go to war. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. There are Ukraine is 3 notches lower than Russia on the international corruption scale. Like, they are more corrupt than Russia. Why isn't Hunter Biden solving this whole thing? He took a lot of money from their oil companies, right? He knows all about oil. He could just solve this, right? They're more corrupt than Russia. Yeah. So there's my heart that sees people that are just trying to live a life, right? They're trying to raise their children. They're trying to pay their cell phone bills. They're going to work. They're just living life, doing their thing. Suddenly they're getting blown up by Russia, okay? They didn't do anything to Russia individually. Their country didn't invade Russia. Now you can make arguments about the contested areas or whatever else. Yeah, they wanted to be a member of NATO, whatever. America kept tweaking Russia over that. Of course, that's all true. So Russia does this. Nobody really expected this. Some people say Russia was telegraphing this the whole time, if you understand how Russians think. The other thing what I've been reading about Russian military doctrine is, yes, Russians don't bluff because Russians don't tell you what they're going to do before they do it. If a Russian is going to punch you in the face, he doesn't say, stop that or I'm going to punch you in the face. He just walks up and punches you in the face so you stop. That's the Russian mentality. So I'm not sure it's so much of a bluff here. Like, he's not bluffing. He will push into Europe. He does want Finland. He does want Sweden. He does want Moldova. Um, yeah, there's yeah. So yeah, you should research. You should definitely do research. There are definitely neo Nazis in the Ukraine, and there's a battalion apparently of guys that are neo Nazis that fight. So right now, the Ukraine is asking for Foreign Legion mercenaries to come in and fight. I don't really think they're checking their political ID cards before they come in the door of who they are. Hell, they could be ISIS for all we know. They don't care as long as they're willing to kill Russians. They don't really care. Um, I'm surprised the terrorist group hasn't taken out a cruise ship. Very soft target. Yeah, that's a good point, Ronald. Thanks for the idea. Say that stuff out loud. What's wrong with you? If one has a Cox router, would you suggest getting your own? I also have an Orbi extender. Any concerns there? So the Cox router, having your modem and your router together, advantage, one device managed by one company. Anything goes wrong, you call Cox, they can fix everything. Disadvantage, you can't configure it. You can change your password by calling Cox, but you can't update the software. You can't set up port forwarding. You can't do any of these more advanced things that you might someday want to do. Most people don't, but someday you might. On top of that, the hardware is garbage. The Wi-Fi hardware that the ISPs give you is absolute trash. You can get a better $30 router at Walmart. So should you buy your own router? We recommend it. We recommend having your own router. Of course, that means you're responsible for your own security on the router. And it's not like there's a cost to that. You just have to check once in a while and update it. The updates are free. The updates are usually around for about 3 to 5 years before you have to toss the router and buy a new one. But most routers burn up by that point anyway, and it's time to toss them anyway and throw them away. If your router is more than 5 years old, you should just replace it at this point. Yeah, the civilians always pay the price. You're absolutely right. And that's the thing. I sit here and my heart bleeds for these people, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible stuff. But then practicality Thor brain comes in. Is this America's fight? Now, it's hard because for years we were pumped full of, we're the defenders of democracy in the world. That's why we're going to Iraq. And one of these soldiers that was going over, a retired soldier who was writing used car blurbs, he's like, I'm not doing anything with my life anymore. Like, I'm writing used car blurbs for a website. I have a skill set that could help these people in Ukraine. I can make a difference there, a real life and death difference in something that matters. I'm going to the Ukraine and I'm going to fight in the Foreign Legion. The Ukrainian consulate said, contact the consulate if you want to come fight. Unfortunately, the soldiers that have contacted the consulate are not hearing back from the consulate because so many have contacted the consulate that they were unprepared for the response. That's how many American soldiers want to go fight and kill Russians in Ukraine. Guys carrying bags of body armor because they know that the Ukrainians don't have body armor. So they're going to bring body armor for them and body armor for as many people as they can carry on their back. Rifle scopes, just basic things that the people need there. Yeah, and I mean, that's American soldiers going through and doing their thing. So is it America's fight? It's hard when you've been pumped full of do the Iraqis really want freedom? They were kind of tepid about it. The Afghanis want freedom. They're kind of tribal about it, pretty tepid. Here you have Ukraine, who, by all accounts and all media reports, are fighting to the death for their country. Women driving their children to the border and then turning around and going back to go fight with their husbands. If I see one more image of a Ukrainian woman with her head shaved, because you shave when you can't take showers and baths and stuff, if you don't shave your hair off, you get infestations and bugs and stuff. So they're shaving their heads so that they can go fight alongside their husbands. And pictures of grandmas holding AK-47s in their kitchens. What the heck? This is a country that wants their freedom from Russia. They want it. They are willing to fight and die. They're willing to stand in the way of thermobaric bombs, to have the air sucked out of their lungs and their internal organs ruptured to have a chance at freedom. Would you rather fight with them or fight with the people who are like, I suppose the freedom thing might be all right to try for a while? So these soldiers, a lot of them are going over there because they believed in what they were doing in Iraq, even if, maybe the government didn't believe in it or the larger political movements didn't believe in it. And they're going over there to fight because they believe in this. And the consulate can't keep up. So is that an act of war? What happens when we get an American captured by Russians? Russians have already said that mercenaries in country will not be protected by Geneva Conventions because mercenaries are not protected by articles of war. So, therefore, I think the obvious solution is anyone who fights in the Ukrainian Foreign Legion should be granted Ukrainian citizenship automatically, making them Ukrainian citizens, making them members of the Ukrainian military, making them protected by the Geneva Conventions, because we know Russia will observe those. Yeah. So anyway, it's long story short here, guys. All the stuff that's going on over there, we are going to feel reverberations of that here because we live in a global economy. And I think what we're going to see over the next 10 years is kind of Trump was probably 10 years ahead of his time. We're going to see onshoring. We're going to see jobs coming back to America, not because you can do them cheaper here, but because if we do them overseas, they may not get done at all. So there still may be some offshoring of certain jobs. You may see a 50-50 blend, like with processors. So we have some capacity at home to flex up if we need to, but it's cheaper to build them over there, so we're going to build as many as we can over there. But what if over there goes away? Well, then we have here. We can build here, and we can keep some going, and we have some time to build more factories then. I think you're going to see a lot of that over the next 10 years. Supply chains have been built for efficiency and profitability to this point. I think now supply chains are going to be built for redundancy and reliability for the next at least 10 years going forward, until the memory of this goes away, whatever this turns into. In the meantime, though, just make sure that you've got the basics that your family needs. Take this moment to go out and do it because two reasons. Number one, end of the world, you might not be able to get it tomorrow. Number two, I think we can all agree the price is going to be higher tomorrow than it is today. Save tomorrow's self a little bit of money. Go buy a couple weeks worth of stuff. Now, at the start of the year, I went through, like I said, well, let's take a look at what we do in the bathroom. And so I'm like, okay, here's the soap that I use. This is about how much soap I need about a bottle a month, basically, of soap for showers and things. So I'm just going to go ahead and buy 12 bottles of soap now. And I'll just have them. And I have a year's worth of soap. I know I'm going to use it. It's not going to go bad. As long as I have water, I'll be using soap. Shampoo, same thing. Deodorant, same thing. Toothpaste, before it goes up to $10 a tube, you might want to jump on that boat. I'm just saying, each person has different financial capabilities of what they can do. And the savings aren't going to be like monumental. You know what I'm saying? It's not like if the price of everything went up 10% tomorrow. Yeah, that's a huge price increase, right? But you're still going to get 90% of what you need to buy. So 10%, right? But it's 10% on top of 10% on top of 10% that we're looking at when this next increase goes up. And if oil goes to $200 a barrel, you're going to be wishing for the days of 10% price increases. Because it's going to have to go up more than that. Just the raw transportation cost will require that. So if you have the ability to do so on the things that are important to you, stock up now on them. Coffee is about to go parabolic for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of stuff going on in the coffee industry, as well as shortages and transportation costs and things like that. If you're a coffee drinker, you better go buy a couple cans of Folgers. Just have them around. You're going to go through it. You're going to drink the coffee. It's not like you're wasting money. You're not buying 20 years of toilet paper that you may not live to use. You do what you can do. Stock up on what you can stock up on things you're going to need or you're going to use or you're going to want. The things that make life comfortable for you, that make life bearable for you. If things get really hairy and nasty, having that special treat around that you like to eat or that you like to drink or whatever, might just help you get through it a little bit. So anyway, I'm not a pessimist by nature. I'm not. My wife, I told her my spidey sense was tingling. She says, you need to watch less of this news. Your country was not invaded, Thor. It's okay. And I'm like, no, I'm not worried about like World War III breaking out. Maybe I should be, but I'm not. That's not what my concern is. My concern is the immediate knock-on effects of what's happening over there to Schrock Innovations and our ability to get computer parts, our ability to get them at a reasonable price. What is our plan if shipping costs go up 200%? We just raise prices across the board? Do we charge a fuel transport fee? What do we do? How do we fix that? Can you fix that? We're seeing labor wages stagnate now. It's actually getting a little bit easier to hire people, and the wages that they're asking for are actually going down slightly. Part of that's more people are getting into the workforce now that the Omicron variant is gone. Businesses are requiring employees to come back to work, which has caused a 3% decrease in work from home over the last month nationwide. So, things are starting to try to return to normal here. But the problem is if wages don't continue to increase when inflation continues to increase, that's the definition of stagflation, where things cost more but wages don't go up. So people buy less, they buy 90% instead of 100%, which causes businesses to have lower revenues, which causes stagnation, which means businesses can't pay their people more, which causes wages to not go up. Cycle repeats. It's a negative feedback loop, and I'm really worried that we're going to get stuck in a negative feedback loop. So what are the things that we can do at Schrock to make sure that if we get stuck in a negative feedback loop nationally, we can keep providing the level of services that we provide to our customers. We can keep their computers safe. We can keep their computers functional. We can supply them with new computers when the needs arise to do so. How can we make sure that we can do that, short of like stockpiling processors and things like that, which, we've got a pretty good supply on hand. That's what I'm concerned with. That's why my spidey sense is tingling. So that's why I'm not going out and digging a bomb shelter. I don't think that the ICBMs are coming and all that. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is there's instability coming. There's uncertainty coming. And uncertainty makes me nervous. We want to know that when we wake up in the morning, we're going to make our coffee. We're going to get up in the morning. We're going to take a shower. We're going to shave. We're going to make our coffee. We're going to go get in the truck, take a daughter to school, leave the school, go to the Papillion Service Center, start my day, work on the transfer list, make sure all the service centers have what they need, then from that point move to another service center as needed. That's my day. I want my day to go that way. When something blows up my day, I get off kilter. And when you have the constant need to adapt to things that are blowing up in your day, it can make your whole life feel out of kilter. So all I'm saying is control the variables you can control and leave the other ones to God, because you can't do anything with those anyway. And you'll probably end up living a happier life given everything that's going on around us. And I probably should watch less news, honestly. All right, last call for questions here before we wrap it up, guys. All right, let's see. Putin believes in striking first. Oh. Well, so do we under the right circumstances. I mean, yeah, we've done it a lot of times. I've gone from a Netgear AC 1900 to Netgear Orbi router. Love the Orbi Plus satellite since it has a bit more range. Yeah, we had a lot of trouble with the Netgear AC 1900s, primarily because the Netgear routers, when we were running them on our network, we have phone systems that are publicly facing, so we can intercom between the service centers and transfer calls, so they can be attacked. They're visible on the internet. They can be attacked, and phone systems are a favorite hack attack, because if you get into a phone system, you can make international calls, you can do all kinds of stuff. So we need routers that have distributed denial of service attack protections in them. And whenever we hooked up an AC 1900, it would just get its teeth kicked in attacks to the point where it couldn't function, and then our internet would go down. We'd have to reboot the router. It would work for a while. It would get attacked. And so we've switched to ASUS routers, because the ASUS routers have integrated Trend Micro protections that, Trend Micro is nothing I would run on my computer, but as far as routers go, we like it because it has the denial of service attack protection. If a number of repeated attacks come in from the same address, it blocks the address in real time. So it doesn't thwart the attack, it doesn't stop it, but it mitigates it. It lowers it to a level by which the router can keep up, and we don't see a disruption in our service in the shop, and our phone systems don't have a disruption. So that's why we really like those routers. Putin wants the natural gas and oil from the Black Sea, doesn't want Ukraine supplying Europe like Russia currently is. Yeah, those could be some larger macroeconomic goals. There's a lot of resources in the Black Sea, and if Russia controls Ukraine, they control the Black Sea. I don't want to see any more coffins covered with American flags on the evening news. No, no, I think we can all agree on that, Aaron. How much coffee would you want in trade for a laptop? Sarcasm. Well, the problem with coffee is it goes bad. You can't stock up on it too much because it'll turn on you. And I've already bought. I think if I drank through it straight, I think I'd have maybe a 2-month supply of my normal 1 mug a day kind of thing. If we had Thanksgiving, then less. Because everyone's coffee is like. Do you want like Thor level coffee that'll grow hair on your chest, or do you want like normal person coffee? And so we make the coffee at the house. It's kind of a joke. Ultimate upgrade. Can I exchange a laptop for a desktop? Yes, Ronald. I thought I answered that one already. Yeah, you can totally laptop for desktop, desktop for laptop. We don't care. And there will be upgrade options for increasing memory, changing out processors, increasing storage in the hard drive, things like that as well. So those will all be options in the Ultimate Upgrade as well. The Ultimate Upgrade is going to be released in April. Just kind of a timetable on things. Right now we're going to run the maintenance special through March. Sometime this month we're going to have the sign-up form on the website for people who are interested in the leasing program to jump in on that, to basically reserve a place in line. We anticipate releasing about 10 computers a month to start the program. So it's not going to be a huge launch. We're going to roll it out slow, see how it goes for the people who are involved in it, see kind of over time, over 6 months, you'll have 60 computers out there. It'll give us a good sample of, this is how it's going for people. If there's no interest, then we'll know it right away and we won't roll it out at all. If we get 5 people that sign up, then what's the point? If we have huge, overwhelming interest, well, then maybe we accelerate it a little bit. So we don't know what's going to happen with that, but there'll be more details on that as we get closer to that. Alfonso's building the forms for that right now. He's waiting on me I'm going to write the content for the pages. So, hi, this is the leasing program. This is how it works, that kind of thing. Sign up below to be on the waiting list. Doesn't, guarantees you a spot in line, basically. Aaron asked if the computer has to be working or not. We don't care. And we don't care what kind of computer you trade in. We've had people trade in Commodore VIC-20s before. We don't care. The point of the Ultimate Upgrade, it's the Ultimate Upgrade because you're trading in some old piece of junk computer for a brand new computer. It is the ultimate upgrade, right? And you're getting a discount of like $150 off the price of that computer for the trade-in. Now, when you trade it in, the computer you trade into us gets recycled at Sadoff Recycling. They're a certified recycler. Everything is done by the book. Your hard drive never leaves our service center. We pull the hard drive, we wipe the hard drive ourselves, and then we archive it in our library of parts for our data recovery lab. So when another one of those hard drives comes in that's bad, we've got parts. We have 10,000 hard drives in the Omaha Service Center. It's crazy to look at the wall of drives back there. The rest of the parts, all the rest of them, go into the recycle bin that gets picked up by Sadoff and recycled. Oh yeah, Aaron, we'll recycle the MacBook for you. All right, guys, I got to roll. Thank you for joining me for the Aftershock today. I appreciate it. Please, if you would, tell your friends and your family about the maintenance special on the computers. It helps us out immensely when you spread the word for us. Also, of course, we're trying to make sure everyone's tech is in tip-top shape going into what's going to be a weird 6-month period here. Want to make sure everybody is nice and stable. I see every drive advisor alert that comes through on every hard drive that gets detected because we contact customers. We actually call customers and tell them their hard drives are failing. Guys, I'm seeing a lot of them. So make sure you get that in for checkup so that we can not only check the health of the drive, which Drive Advisor is monitoring in real time, we can also check the speed of your solid state because the speed always degrades before the drive fails. We can always detect it early if we detect it running at a slow speed. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.